Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
That means there's, at least on my railroad, that means you got to fill out the paperwork. Once you're more than 15 minutes late, you're in trouble.
Oh, I love paperwork.
Oh, yeah, I know you do. It's your favorite part about model railroad operations.
Absolutely. That's the best part about model railroad operations is filling out paperwork. You go to those timetable and train order guys, and they're like, write this down.
There's a new movement where they just do paperwork and there's no actual layout.
Yeah, exactly. I've been waiting for that.
You know what's funny is I would not be that surprised by that in some of those circles.
Oh, for sure.
It's a hobby. You do it as you want.
Sure. Some guys on the Queen's birthday on May 24th weekend, which is the week before Memorial Day, and the running of the greatest spectacle in motorsports across the world. Some guys will take a 57-year-old bus and drive it around on the busiest traffic day of the year.
Yeah, when there's no air conditioning in the bus, it does happen.
Beautiful.
Guess what?
Hot weather, cottage traffic coming home. What could be better?
Yeah,
we're recording this on that particular Monday, and I'm. Are we recording it, by the way?
Yeah, we have. Been about a minute.
No, we're just chatting for the fun of it. Recording? What do we want to do? A recording? Holy Moses!
You're telling me that?
What do you think, Lionel? Should push the button?
Yeah, let's get Jason to go back into the green room, and we'll start the show.
I'm back.
I start them like that because that's the most interesting way, because people are just chatting away naturally. And
right. So this is the day that you're discussing, and I was in the heat all day, and I don't know what hit me. I had to go home, have a bath, and watch Discovery because I'm way behind on my Star Trek.
Okay.
No spoilers. I just saw episode 1.
Episode 1?
Oh, of season 5.
Of season 5.
It's okay. I've been busy watching Doctor Who, Lower Decks, all these other shows, so you can excuse me.
So I'm
hoping I can hijack this and we end up talking about my favorite science fiction shows, or we can talk about WWF wrestling because I was watching that too.
My son loves
Wildlife Foundation Wrestling. That's where the pandas go at it.
Yeah, my son and his buddy go to lots of wrestling things, and my son, who's a very intelligent guy and is now running the family business. I go like, what? And he says, it's modern day opera, Dad.
Okay, so in the 80s, I was a huge WWF fan, and now that I'm about to turn 50, and I'm in my prolonged midlife crisis that started with the bus purchase and went on from there, that my mother asked me what I wanted for 49th birthday, and I said I want wrestling figures because I sold them all at a garage sale in 1989 or something like that. So so I'm looking at Hulk Hogan right now as I'm talking to you. And so I'm watching this old WWF wrestling match from the 80s. I don't want to know the new stuff. I don't care about it. So when it was still called WWF, and it occurred to me that I spent most of the 80s watching big sweaty men on steroids hugging each other, and there's got to be some incredible papers in some university somewhere written about that, because it never occurred to me when I was a kid that I was looking at big sweaty men hugging each other. But that's what I was looking at all the time.
So today, how many people did you have on the bus?
I had about 21.
Okay, so when everybody got off the bus and you got to the end of the trip and people got off and you're all standing around talking, I'm sure that some people kind of gave you a half man hug and a pat on the back and this and that. So I mean, you were basically doing the same thing. You're a hot, sweaty.
Yeah, it was the same. Yeah, especially because we were all just wearing tights.
Did you give anybody the suplex?
I didn't. Though in grade 6, I body slammed a friend of mine. He didn't like that.
There you go. No,
yeah, he said
that's
happy.
not nice.
Now, luckily, it was onto a snowbank, but he still didn't like that very much.
Right.
In fact, I'm surprised he talked to me after that.
I know, Jason, that you listen to all the podcasts and many of them twice. So we're going to give you a little test here. Bruce, I'm wondering if while they were on the bus, if any of them had Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Wow, he understood to stay quiet. Excellent. That voice you hear that's talking about the bus is none other than Jason Shron, who is the president of Rapido Trains and run
Your
and
fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
that's true. Good point.
Oh,
Be
yes,
careful how
yes.
you talk.
yeah,
Mr. Grant.
exactly. I got to leave the
You got to leave that little pause for me to get the plug
well,
in.
and I got to when I don't want that commercial, I got to just say Rapido.
Yes.
There you go.
That's the key. That's the key right there.
So
So
we might be Arnold Rapido, and then it's the wrong company.
Well, that's a total different Rapido.
or you might be
Yeah.
Arnold Rapido. What, you're buying them?
No, I thought that we should change.
I'm
all of our
Arnold
N-scale
Rapido.
models.
I'm here to give you trains.
I thought that we're going to replace all of our flanges with pizza cutters that are 4 inches high.
There you go.
And then all your trains. And no matter what model you're doing, everything's got like 42-inch wheels.
Perfect.
Freight car, 42-inch wheels. Passenger, 42-inch wheels.
That cut down on the inventory you need for wheel sets, huh?
There you go.
So
You're going to go to the NEM type couplers on them too?
No, I'm going with Rapido couplers on them. of
Okay.
course. Actually, don't joke. Our UK N-scale models have Rapido couplers. They have those big chunky couplers because
Yeah.
that's the standard for in the UK. That's the standard still. They
Yes.
haven't switched to micro trains, so they use these big chunky Rapido couplers. And they call them Rapido couplers.
So what couplers does the stuff come from Rapido?
The N-scale stuff is a very close approximation, though not exact, of micro trains 1015 and 1016 couplers. But they're not exact. They're similar.
And what ones?
Not exact.
What comes
And,
on? What comes on HO?
HO, we call them our McDonald Cartier couplers, named after the famous freeway between Windsor and the Quebec border. And those we have semi-scale couplers on locomotives and freight cars, and we have larger couplers on passenger cars because they're long pieces of equipment. So little couplers are going to uncouple in a real layout environment.
Was it easier to make your own coupler rather than just buy Katie couplers?
So we are big Katie fans. Everyone at Rapido being modelers, most of us are modelers. We all got tons of KDs, but Katie could not produce the quantities that we needed in the time frame we needed.
Oh, really?
When you go to Katie and say, "Okay, I need 200,000 couplers," and they just start laughing and say, "These are put together by hand in the USA, right?" I said, "Yeah, and we can get you like 10,000 couplers in 8 months or something." And so yeah, it's no knock on Katie. Their stuff is they're the best couplers in the world. We couldn't get the quantities in the time frame we needed.
So Dave, we got Jason Shron, we got our pal Uncle Dave Ableys, who is like always has hanging around, and then we got Bruce the moderately agitated mailboy, and me,
There we go.
the evil overlord.
Yeah, it's a fun
Excellent.
crowd. It's a fun crowd.
Excellent.
I never knew that detail about the Katie couplers, Jason. That's interesting. But that shows you how big Rapido's gotten. That's great.
we actually did get them for one or two projects many years ago when we were a smaller company, and they really were they are the best couplers. But it was difficult to put them on freight cars because we'd have to increase the retail price by like over $5 to have them. Just because we have to pay our cost, then we have the cost of shipping them to China, and then we have to give our distributor discounts to our distributors. So it ended up being cheaper, really, for people just to buy them in bulk on their own and just swap them out. So people seem to be happy with our couplers over the last few years. We've really improved. We retooled them. The couplers we had like 10, 15 years ago weren't that good, but we've retooled them. We did paint them rust color for a while, and then we found that was actually affecting the operation and making them less reliable. So we went back to plating them in the color we want. So they're not quite so rusty. But yeah, lately I've noticed that people are not swapping out the couplers on our cars as often, which I take that as a huge compliment.
And yours are metallic, not plastic, correct?
Oh yeah, you got to be metallic in your couplers, definitely.
And do you get them made at
saying-
the same place you get the trains made?
Yeah. We've got 5 factories that we work with in China. We started 3 of them, and we own all the molds. So we own different coupler molds. And actually, we have to make a new mold just for the FTs, and I think just for Santa Fe and 1 or 2 other roads, because there's actually a handful of FTs that had couplers rather than drawbars, and we don't have a coupler that's squished. So we have to make a new squishy coupler.
Oh, fair
Squishy
enough.
coupler. I like that term.
Yes.
The new
And so
Rapido squishy coupler. Yeah.
mold number. So Bill sent me the mold list for the FTs because they're in tooling now, and he said it's okay before it went into tooling. And I said, well, mold number 16 has 2 couplers on it. Can we maybe fit some more couplers on that mold? He said, yeah, we don't need that many couplers. It's not that many engines have these little squishy couplers on them. So I think he's talking to the factory to add a couple more random couplers onto the mold, because I hate the idea of using a die-cast mold just for 2 couplers. It's very expensive.
Is that the way molds work? Kind of like 3D printing, where you just kind of like fit as much stuff on as you can, and
No, so you're limited by a number of different factors. Limit your how much. So number one, and the most important thing, is your flow of the plastic flow. So if you throw 35, 40 parts on a mold, if they're big chunky boxy things, you're with no fine detail, and you're probably fine. So you get a structure kit, and there's like 35, 40 parts on a mold. It's usually quite a simple mold, but with our very fine cross sections and very like crazy detail with all the tiny rivets and everything, to get it to flow properly, you can't have too many parts. The biggest challenge is POM, which is the what's the word for POM molds? The slippery the acetal plastic.
Engineered plastic, Delrin or stuff like that. Yeah.
Delrin's the brand name in North America.
Yeah.
So we call it POM. It's an acronym. You can look it up. But the POM molds are often very fine, long, pipey parts, and you just can't have that many parts on a mold because the plastic just won't fill. So a typical locomotive is something like anywhere from 16 to 22 molds for a locomotive, and molds would be very expensive. Obviously, you've got, especially when lately we've been doing so many variations of cab sides and hood sides and noses and ends and everything, that it actually is hugely expensive. I can tell you that despite the incredible sales of the GP38, that project's not making a profit till run 2 because of the cost of the tooling. And it's the same thing. The GP40 as well is there's so many variations of it that's also probably turning a profit in run 2. So what can you do, right? I mean, it's the reality of it that people expect the Rapido level detail, and we can't do I'd love to make just like a Rapido Lifelike BL2 from 1990 and say, here you go. It's the same model for every railroad. Go to town. But then we wouldn't be Rapido.
While we're talking about the GP40s, you love our commercials, right?
Of course.
Yes. And our buddy, our friend David Hyde, who we call Mr.
I'm waiting for us. I met him in Dallas, and he's got to do my WKRP sting. I'm still waiting for it. I have to bug him.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a couple months.
He's got to do a Scottish. He's doing a Scottish one for us too. But we got to get him the MKT poster that you used. We got to get him a copy of that poster, because that's what he really wants for making the jingles, is a copy of this poster that you guys made for the Jeep 40s.
I offered him some free models.
I know
correctly from our conversation in Dallas.
I know, but what he really wants is that poster.
Okay, well then I'll happily, I'll send the models to you, Lionel, for your collection. I'll send him a poster.
That's a great idea.
That's a fair deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dave, if you're listening, congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Dave is listening. So
that jingle just got a whole lot less worthwhile.
Are you kidding? He's desperate for this
the poster's
poster.
Great. It's a great poster.
It's whatever. It's ever what's worth. It's ever what holds value to you.
All right. So it's got to be something like WKRP in Cincinnati. I want something like that, right? So
okay.
So I sent Dave some suggestions. So I suggested to him, and let's find my text here. How about buying Rapido trains will make you happy, or hey, those Rapido trains are not too shabby. So
I want him. And what we do need to know is he foots the bill himself, which I absolutely keep trying to say. Let me. Well, I said it once, I think, but I wouldn't mind a 10-second commercial, and I said I will pay for it. Just get the person to do, because at 5 seconds it's X number of dollars, and I guess it goes by length as how much you pay. And so then I always slow them down a little bit and get them to 6 or 7 seconds, which David doesn't know that, and I guess he does now.
Tricks of the trade.
And
I think. Hey, wait. Hey, those Rapido trains are not too shabby. I'll just keep saying.
Yeah, well, I want one like red. I want him to do like one like red
I
wiggle.
just texted him. I said, I'm on Lionel's podcast, and he reminded me to remind you about this. His response: "Oh crap, on it, thanks."
Yeah, well, I'm going to text him, and I said, and he says you're going to get the poster. That's what I'm going to text him.
Rapido Trains, the Cadillac of trains, the Cadillac of trains.
There you go. Oh, nice.
This world gets smaller and smaller.
Red Wigglers was my favorite. Yeah. No, what was that one?
Was Red Wigglers, Cadillac of worms.
Was it? And then there was the
Red Wigglers, the Cadillac of worms. They're the Cadillac of worms. And then there's Fairman Funeral Home.
Yeah.
Okay, we had different stuff here. We had, when you eat your Smarties, do you eat the red ones last? Do you suck them very slowly?
Yeah, there you go.
Very fast. Stuck in my head from 1982.
Yeah,
those are the halcyon years of being a child.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for my inner adult, actually, because I was just describing my Hulk Hogan action figure.
Yes.
And I for my birthday, my wife got me the Star Destroyer. So you remember, in 1984, 3 or something like that, you get the Star Wars toys, and there was a Darth Vader Star Destroyer that had his meditation chamber. Yeah, she found it on eBay, complete.
Nice.
It's fabulous. So the toys are filling up my house, and there's no room for people anymore.
Are you going to put the Star Destroyer hovering over the Kingston Station parking lot?
So actually, no joke. Brockville right now, if you look in Brockville, that's where my son and I saw our Star Wars.
So just down the road.
So just west of the station, you got a TIE Fighter, Endor, an Imperial base, and 2 AT-ATs.
They're a little large for HO scale, though.
Yeah, they are.
It's kind of like a collision of worlds.
Actually, the AT-AT is almost to scale. It's supposed to be about, I don't know, like 4 or 5 inches shorter, and it would be HO scale. And I posted a photo of the AT-ATs blowing up some LRCs on my layout, and a Star Wars fan complained that they were out of scale. So what can you do?
Of course they would.
Yes.
I'll just tell them it was a forced perspective scene.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
So what bus was it that you were driving today?
This is 3380. It's a 1967 GM New Look TDH 5303. It was originally a Calgary Transit bus, number 606. And then I bought it in 2016 and painted it up as a Toronto bus. So it's a fake Toronto bus. The TTC, Toronto Transit Commission, had the same model bus up to 3379, and there was a 20 number break, so we numbered it 3380 as such as the next one.
There you go.
And it's pretty close. It'll fool most people. The TTC has used it before for promotional stuff, so it even fools them. Yeah. And now our second bus is still stuck in California, and that's a go bus. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. If I recall, your first one, you drove it back from Calgary in the winter with less than adequate heating. Is that correct?
Yeah, we didn't realize that we had a radiator leak, and that led to the eventual having to replace the engine because we futzed it. But it works now. It didn't work for a year or so. In fact, I took it to my son. My son wanted me to take it to his prom last year. He wanted me to take him and his friends in this ancient bus, and they actually said that
an awesome idea for a prom.
And they actually said it was because the prom sucked. It was the highlight was the bus ride because we went down Bathurst Street with the Bathurst bus on our sign on our bus, and people kept trying to get on. And it's like, yo, this is a 56-year-old bus. It looks nothing like the buses you normally take. And the route number doesn't exist anymore, okay? Why are you getting on my bus? Like, they kept one after another. Every stop, people try to get on the bus.
Can you drop me off at Dundas?
So it wasn't. The engine was in the process of dying at that point. Actually, it was a new engine. Sorry, the alternator was dying, and it was like we got there in a wing and a prayer. And the worst thing was I want to break down on the way to my son's prom, and all his friends in their fancy dresses and stuff getting out of this bus on Bathurst Street and getting onto the actual Bathurst bus. So it was fine. It was good. We got them there. It was all good. But I do love driving that bus, especially in Toronto when I've got like a Toronto bus route. And even if it's the wrong bus route, but people always are photographing the bus and shouting and waving and stuff. It's wonderful. It's a great feeling.
Hey, Bruce, I just had a great idea.
Hello. Yes.
You know how my legs have given out on me. Dave, you know that too.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to walk the 100 kilometers this year, I'll just take Jason's bus.
There you go. You can walk up and down the aisle of the bus while he's on route.
Absolutely.
That could be like
if you wait a bit,
wide event. Yes.
I think we're supposed to have the Go bus in July, all going well. And the Go bus has reclining seats, air conditioning, reading lights. It's a nice bus.
And even better, there is a Go route that kind of follows the route the line will take. So that would screw up a lot of people.
Well, yeah. Well, I was talking to Dave about it the other day on Uncle Dave's Fireside Chat number 19, and I said to him, I don't think my legs are going to make it this year. So I said to him, what do you think of this idea? I just take public transit because I can get almost to my house via public transit, because already the hospital's like, so are you giving up? And I'm like, well, no. I said, I won't give up if you guys don't want me to. And they said, well, we'll figure something out. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure something out. And
Scooter. Take a scooter the whole way.
Actually, that was David Start's. That was David Start's idea. And I started looking at them, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'd look pretty sweet going up Highway 11 on a scooter down the shoulder of the road.
No. Highway 400 on the scooter.
Yeah.
Nice 8-lane highway.
We're mostly paved shoulders, so you're relatively safe.
Yeah.
That sounds like a police academy movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can make something out of it. I said to them, don't worry, we'll make something out of this. We'll get you some. We'll still help because it all goes to the people struggling from a mental side with cancer, which I think is huge. I think it's the hardest part.
Absolutely, it is. Yes,
I agree.
So, I'm looking at the picture from 3 hours ago. So this was just the family on the bus today?
No, it's friends. I just sent an email out to a bunch of friends and said, we're going to go to Bruce's Mill Conservation Area on the bus. Who wants to come? We're picking you up at 10:45 at Promenade bus stop by the LCBO. And I went, and there were a bunch of people at 10:45, and we got on the bus, and we went to the conservation area. And the kid at the gate, the conservation area, just looks up and says, "This is so cool." So we had a great time. It was wonderful. And, one of my friends brought a barbecue, and he was barbecuing. Everyone brought their own picnics. We brought a kite. We brought balls. We brought everything. And then we went hiking in the woods. And my son likes to go to this place because he goes on all the paths that say that out of use, do not go, do not enter. And that's where he goes. So we ended up fording a river and crawling through mud. It was good.
So what was the deal with this? How did you find this other bus that's in California?
So I was talking with a fellow named Lauren, who's in California, and he's bought and sold over 700 New Look buses over his time. He's in the bus business, but he's also a huge Santa Fe modeler. And we connected because I was looking for a part for my bus, and several people said contact this guy Lauren in Paris, California. So I contacted him, and then he had this bus, and he's been kind enough to fix it up. It wasn't working in time for us to go on when I did our Cross America tour in March. But it should be ready to come to Canada in July. If it's not, I think I'm just going to send a flatbed and cart it to Canada and have my mechanics here tinker on it because I really want to be able to use it, and it's great also for PR. It's Go Transit bus. We have a Go Transit license. I'm hoping that we can work with Go Transit to use it for special events. Like something like the Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup for 2038. That should be good, and other things like that.
Maybe. So. Will they still be making diesel fuel then? That's the question.
It's a historic vehicle. I hope they're going to be forgiving.
The question you got to ask yourself is, did this fellow Lauren know anything about Rapido Trains?
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Not only does he know about Rapido Trains, but he was responsible for us doing the re-engined PAs for Santa Fe. 51 LAC, because they had those very unreliable 244 engines in them, Alco 244s. So they experimented putting EMD 567 engines in there, and they had to modify the roofs to fit the 567, which are taller engines. And so we're actually that's in production right now, probably delivery around end of this year. And that was because he suggested that. I'd never heard of this thing before he suggested it. And then he said, I think you should do FTs, Santa Fe FTs, because no one's ever done one with the couplers, no one's ever done one correctly. And I said to Bill, what are we doing FTs? He said, well, FTs already on my list. I've actually got it half designed. So yeah, it's been a great help knowing this guy Lauren, and he's been very helpful. So hopefully we get the bus going. Yeah.
Over the years, how many different locomotive models have you made?
Oh, I have no idea. I haven't counted. A very lot. I think would be the
A very lot of numbers. Okay.
A very lot. I mean, look, I've got our project management folder open right now. And if I select, this includes all HO product series. If I select all of the items in the folder, there's 167 items selected.
There you go.
So that's locomotives, passenger cars, freight cars, and HO. Then you've got N scale. And if I select all the N scale models, not as many, 45 models selected. So there's a lot of them
there was a time in all of our memories here when there was only 45 models available in all of N scale.
This is true.
I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I would say in the early 80s, that was probably the case.
So N scale, a challenge we have with N scale is this. First of all, it's about 15 to 20%, not even of the HO market. Of the hobby is about 15% of the market. So it ends up being about a quarter of the HO sales. And the trouble is that in that small portion of the market, there's actually two totally separate hobbies. There's guys who want super detailed models, and there's guys who operate the models. And they're two different groups. So we find that a lot of N scalers, the most vocal ones, they want every separate grab bar and they want every class light to work. They want everything. But I think the majority of N scalers want something that doesn't have all separate grabs because they're oversized. They have to be an N scale and they break off. They just want stuff that looks good from 3 feet away so they can run big, long trains at the club layout. And we often have to walk a balancing act between these two separate markets. Another thing that is a lot of N scalers don't pre-order as much as HO. And so we actually, our orders for the new Procore we have a Procore 5820 hopper, like plastic pellet car, that the orders were not so hot, but people kept telling us N scalers don't like to pre-order. So we actually made a bunch of extra hoppers. And now we're saying, okay, we've listened to you. We've made them on spec, order them and we'll see how they do.
And if you don't, we won't do it again.
But yeah, and what we've had to do with some products is we've gone with conditional, because we did a couple of projects that were our fault, the wrong choice of model, and orders were not great. So now for most N scale, especially the more expensive N scale projects, we do them as conditional announcements. The last one we did was the N scale RDC. I got to tell you, smashed through our expected orders, smashed. The N scale RDC, by the time, based on our pre-orders so far, is gonna challenge an HO locomotive model in terms of sales volume.
Wow. Congratulations! Great.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just like an HO. Everyone said, "Don't bring out an RDC." The lifelike ones have been on the market for years. They were closing out at $30 each. Don't bring out an RDC. And the RDC, up until the E8, was our biggest selling powered model ever.
Wow.
They are beautiful models.
Thank you. The E8 kicked the butt off the RDC, but I have to say the E8 was a COVID model. Yes. And during COVID, people ordered really heavily, and so that's why the E8 did very, very well. I think there's still E8s available if you need them at stores. But even so, even though that now things have slowed down post COVID, when we're doing the head and power E8s right now, they're delivering later this year. The orders were very strong for those. I was very impressed. They weren't the same kind of numbers as the first round of E8s, but they were very, very strong.
That's good. And I know you've talked before you don't like doing second runs for the decrease in market, but you must be happy with that.
Now we have to. So we've invested so much in all these different locomotive platforms: the E8s, the PAs, the GP38, the GP40, the C. Help me out here. C30-7. So because of that, we've got so many platforms. We have to do more runs because the tooling cost is so high that we can't afford to do a run every 3-4 years. We have to do, like, every year we're going to have to do a new run of some kind of GP38 model, some kind of GP40 model, and something based on the C30-7 because we have to get the money out of the molds.
But I think that's an exciting thing because it helps people spread out. One of the things Lionel and I were talking about last time we were chatting is the collector market. Jason, you're an operator. I'm an operator. Lionel and Bruce, you guys have operated all over the place. Like, operations is part of the hobby for us, but I think for a lot of people, it's a collector's market as well. And spreading things out, the detail, Jason, that you guys are getting out of these locomotives, they're each a little work of art. They're beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
A collector is going to love a Southern GP38 versus a Conrail GP38 versus a Pennsylvania Reading Seashore Lines. Name your prototype. But
Right.
every railroad had it in a different degree, and you guys are going to be able to do that because of the sort of the modular approach. I'm excited for you guys. I think this is a really
Thank you.
powerful era.
Actually, that thought came to me with the RS18U, because I bought a couple of those, and I'm thinking, why did I buy a couple of those? And then I went, well, because it's really cool. And I mean,
Because they're freaking cool.
yeah, because they're freaking cool. And the
See, now you know the answer to the question. Keep asking me why I'm buying it. Because it's cool.
Yeah, but I had an HO layout.
Right.
You got hang on. I'm not finished. Hang on.
Okay.
What do you think? You're the guy that owns Rapido Trains?
You're a fast track to model railroading fun?
So you and your wife. And so anyways, I bought a couple, and then Dave and I were talking, because we talk about how the hobby is growing, and I said to him, I think in HO scale, because these models are so spectacular and so beautiful to look at, I think you're going to start seeing a whole collector part of the HO scale thing, like in N scale. There.
So collector market's a big part of it, and it always has been. And what Dave said reminded me of that, like steam engines. We're finding that we're not selling a lot of the smaller engines. So we did the D10, which is a good little engine. It's a Canadian Pacific, like the most common Canadian Pacific steam engine. When we announced the Royal Hudsons, people said, and all the proper modelers, guys who run layouts, said, why are you bringing out? I already got like 3 brass models. You don't need that. You need a D10. No one's done a good D10. Okay, so we did the Royal Hudson, sold a gazillion of them, and then we did the D10s, and we had to keep on postponing the deadline because the orders weren't strong enough. And we finally got enough orders, but overall, we sold half the number of D10s as Royal Hudsons, because guys aren't buying D10s for their display case. They want Royal Hudsons for their display. Why do you think so many manufacturers make big boys? People want the big boy in their display case. They don't want the UP060 switcher in their display case. So it means that it's a real challenge when coming to steam engines like we've got right now. I'm not sure when you listeners listen to this, but as of when we're recording this, the order desk is open for the CN-H6, which is a similar to D10. It's a little 460, and they were very common across the system. But if the orders don't come in, then we can't make it, because the steam engines cost more than diesels to tool. And if we only sell half the number we're selling of a diesel, then or diesel, as some of you guys in the States like to say, then it's because it doesn't make sense financially. So the display case market is actually a big part of it, and that's why we've actually sold more Hudsons than D10s. So we've got Royal Hudsons sold like double the D10s, and then the straight Hudson, which you think, well, I just got a bunch of rows, don't need a straight, sold more than D10s also. Right. So a lot of those straight Hudsons, especially 2816, our biggest seller, because it's on the road right now. A lot of those straight Hudsons are going straight into the display case. They're not ever going to touch a layout. Yeah. And so it becomes a challenge, because a lot of people request smaller steam engines. If people don't make smaller steam engines, I'm telling you why it's hard to make smaller steam engines is that they just don't sell.
People don't buy them. That's a pretty good reason.
And if you're paying $110,000 for a complicated diesel locomotive in terms of tooling, or 120, a steam engine can cost $150, $160, $170,000. And so now you're spending more money to sell fewer engines. That's a real challenge.
Yeah, your accountant will tell you that's not a good thing.
And the other thing is that they're often so unique. So we can't, like, all we're reusing, I think, from the D10 tooling to the H6 tooling is the drive mechanism. Everything else is new tooling, because it's very hard to find, unless you're doing USRAs, which have been done to death, it's very hard to find steam engines from 5 different railroads that are based on the same platform. It's different for everyone. So you can't read, we can go from a C30-7 to C36-7, and the C36 tooling is less than half of the C30 tooling, right? So because we're reusing so many components, but for the D10 to the H6, we're reusing one mold. You know, so you still got another like 17 or something molds that you have to make, and it's very expensive.
Yeah. Talking about tooling and molds and stuff, I see recently you're starting to pair up with Canon for exhaust fans and things on some of your models. What was the driving impetus behind that? We found it was very hard to get fans on modern diesels, meaning modern. Okay, not even just modern diesels in general. The EMD and GMD models, it's very hard to get the fans right on these hood units. And now that we looked at the fact that there are several competing models of GP40s on the market, and we needed to have some kind of edge.
And so we said, well, hang on. Everyone sees Canon as being the best diesel detail parts in the world. So why don't we speak to Dave and see if we can license the fan design? And he's very particular on that fan design. Actually, the first attempt at the mold, he said, not good enough. You got to fix that. And we are fixing it. So the GP38 is very, very close to the Canon design. In fact, I suspect most people won't be able to tell them apart. But we can't say it's a Canon design for 38 because the flange is about, no exaggeration, 0.05 or 0.6 millimeters too thick for a Canon part. And so, again, most people will be happy with the 38. It's very small difference. But in order for the 40 to have, and the SD7s and 9s to have proper Canon parts, they have to be proper Canon clones. Right. So the 40, we're injecting the parts for the 38s, and then we're retooling that flange for the 40 to try and get closer to Dave's design. So yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, because I have a question, and I'm trying to think to myself, have I ever asked you specifically for a favor? And every year you help donate. You donate a large sum of money to the One More Year cause to help us raise money for Princess Margaret Hospital, which I very much appreciate. I'm not sure I would classify that as a favor. And then I'm thinking through my head, I don't know if I've ever asked Jason for a really big favor. So could you just do me one favor? Could you just say yes before I ask you?
That I can't do, but I'll listen to the favor.
Famous last words. Yeah, good choice, Jason.
I'm begging. I'm begging you. I'm on my knees. I'm begging you. Could you please make the C30-7A in Conrail? I'm begging you.
So Dave has been asking for the C30-7A since the first day I met him, and many years ago. And yes, I assure you, we are going to do the C30-7A. It'll be here within 2 years or so. So you will see a C30-7A.
But Jason, you and I talked about the C30-7 and the platform, the fact that the frame is so similar, etc. And I've been working with one of your designers, with Jeff Lazan, who's been a fantastic guy, meticulous researcher, a lot of very good questions, stuff that I did not see coming. And we've worked together back and forth on a couple different aspects of it. But he's done a beautiful design work on the C36-7.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Fantastic to work with. And it's been a lot of fun sort of watching this come along. And I am very grateful, as are all of us 80s, 90s mainline modelers. These are engines that we need. And
they're engines I don't need. What we need,
I understand.
An MLW S13 switcher. That's what we need. Okay? All these other things are just in the way of my MLW S13 switcher.
All you need to do is model a few years later, Jason. A few years later, and all this stuff was up there all the time.
Unfortunately, all these things pay the bills, and I have to wait for my MLW S13 switcher. But we will be announcing that before the end of the year, because I really need my MLW S13 switcher. So it's happening.
Well, perhaps if you could curtail your bus habit.
Now, is this? Let's be clear though. Is this a habit, or what's the polite way to lay this out?
Okay, it's an illness, I think is the correct word.
Yeah.
But no, I don't
know. It's not making you ill, right? I mean, it's
like the people you see in downtown any big city. It's a habit. He's got a problem. He has a serious problem that we need an intervention.
The big problem is that my insurance rates have skyrocketed since we got the first bus 8 years ago. It costs us now about $6,000 a year to insure the first bus. Wow. So if you don't want your logo on it, if you just want to drive it around on a sunny Sunday with up to 8 people, then it's $400-$500 a year. If you want to put your logo on it and bring people along with you, employees and whatever else, friends and family, it went up to $6,000 or $7,000. And then if you want to actually charter out for weddings, bar mitzvahs, that kind of thing, it jumps to like over $20,000. Okay, but that was old rates. Now to insure this new bus, the starting rate for friends and family is $11,000. And I said, we have another bus with a perfect record. And he said, no, it goes from zero every time.
Wow.
So
it's funny. That's sort of one of the secrets in America, in the United States. This is why certain trucking companies and bus companies and passenger movers and private lease vehicles are registered in different states. Right. Because the insurance rates, the inspection procedures, everything changes state by state. So maybe that's an option. Maybe you should register it in
There you go.
Saskatchewan or something.
Get yourself an address in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
I have an address in Gimli, Manitoba. That's where my cottage is. This is a remarkably good idea. I'm going to make inquiries to see if we can have Manitoba plates on the Go Bus.
I'm telling you.
The government of Ontario transit bus.
Yeah, you can make that a poster child. I love it. But that's why you see so many trucks in the United States with a Delaware or an Illinois license plates because they have different rules.
The main trailers. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
We're this is the last bus.
Famous last words. Yeah.
One day,
it's my last -7, Jason.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
-7's a lot cheaper. I mean, this bus costs the same as a real freaking -7. Anyway, so once you include the insurance, absolutely. But this is the last bus, and one day I will sell Rapido Trains someday in the far future. I'm not selling the buses. I'm keeping the buses, and then I'll pay the $30,000 insurance to rent them out for weddings and bar mitzvahs and make that little side hustle. All right, get the buses to pay for themselves.
Let me give you a little insight into your future. I can remember 20 years ago, 25, 34 years ago, playing golf with my friend John, and he owned a sporting goods business in town, and I owned my business, and we were talking about the future, and he says, well, you'll never retire. And I said, yeah, I will. I said, by the time I'm 65, my business will be nothing but dust. It'll be nothing but a memory in the rearview mirror. And now I'm 70 and I still have it. And my son runs it. So don't get too excited about the day that you sell Rapido Trains.
I got to tell you something.
You're fast track to model road fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
The workload lately has been insane, both on me and the rest of my employees. It's a lot of work to run this company. So, I don't know. One day, I don't think I'm going to have it anymore, but that's a long way off. So
exactly. You don't know what the future brings. It's like the guy that says, I'm not buying any more buses. Then all of a sudden, one day, he's scrolling through the internet and like, oh, my God.
I don't have that one.
I've always wanted a double-decker bus. Maybe at some point when I retire, and I'll get one in the UK and tootle it around.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, UK one, not one of the Go Transit ones, right?
No, not one of the new Go ones. It'll be like, I don't know, like a Bristol
a proper UK one. Yeah.
Or something like that. The problem is with the double-decker buses is that unless you really know your route well, the likelihood of you removing the top of your bus is very high.
Yeah, and then you didn't start making the videos you see on YouTube channels of trucks and stuff going under low bridges.
Oh, so I started watching that. What was it called? 11'8" or something like that. There was this bridge, this low bridge, and some guy had a webcam, and he was just showing all the people ignoring the signs and the flashing lights. So I start watching that, and it was very funny. We watched them at the office during lunch and stuff. And then YouTube kept recommending me all these videos of people dying. It's like, no, I don't want to see carnage. No one's hurt by these buses and trucks flattening out on this. But no, YouTube goes to the extreme. Within 2 clicks, it's like, here, look at this carnage. I can show you people dying. No, I don't want to watch that. So now my YouTube feed is filled with Doctor Who, Britain's Got Talent, and WWF wrestling.
So who's your favorite wrestler right now?
Well, so you have to understand that my wrestling knowledge ends around 1988.
Okay.
So my favorite wrestler has to be the Hulkster. Definitely. There you go. 100%. You get excited when the Hulkster would get in that ring back in the day. Yeah. And, he would rip the T-shirt off and he'd put his hand to his ear and everyone would go crazy. I saw him in 1986 at Maple Leaf Gardens. He was facing Kamala the Ugandan Giant in a 15-foot high steel cage. It was electric. It was awesome. Loved it. And then, it gets better. So then my father and I would start going more regularly, and we'd meet the wrestlers beforehand. Hillbilly Jim, he's really big, by the way. And then, we saw Battle Royal, King Kong Bundy. They couldn't get him out of the ring, so he kind of jumped. But then we got to the point where I was reading the papers, knew when the wrestling matches were coming. We sat on the floor, and so we got there early. We're on the floor. We're going to see Andre the Giant. And there's this grandma. Okay, any of you guys remember the show Rockin' Robin Hood? At the beginning of Rockin' Robin Hood, Friar Tuck uses his belly, and the Sheriff of Nottingham's men would run at him, and he'd bounce them away with his belly and whack. So this grandma, Rockin' Robin Hood. This grandma is standing there, like not 20 feet away from us, and she's doing that with her grandkids. They're running up, she's bouncing with their belly. And my father turns to me and says, "Jason, do you see the kind of people who are here with us at the wrestling match?" and he still brings it up. He brought it up like 2 weeks ago. I mentioned I was watching wrestling and said he asked everybody in the room, "Let me tell you a story about the kind of people we saw at the wrestling match."
Yeah, weren't they cool, Dad? Yeah.
We watched it once, and my dad let us. We were all watching it as a family. My dad thought it was funny. My mom was laughing, but they thought it was a standalone one show.
Oh,
so we tried to watch it again, and the second time it didn't go over as well. And by the third time, we were banned from watching anymore. You don't want to act like those people. You're not allowed to. That's violence. My mom would say it's base. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, I spent a time on a flight sitting next to Mean Gene Okerlund.
No way. Did he interview you?
No, I was chatting with him. He was heading into Toronto, going down to Brantford to do some filming. And I said, "So why are you going to a small place like that?" And he said, "Well, because it's a small arena, and even if you got 2,000 people in it, it looks packed." Well, that makes sense. But then he explained, all everything, as we well know, is somewhat scripted and scripted out like 6 months in advance or something like that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
it's also sorry to burst your bubble there, Lionel, but I just actually got a Mean Gene Okerlund wrestling doll.
Oh, there you go. Cool. And he's just a short little guy, but he's a real nice guy who chatted with him for a bit and had a nice chat. And yeah, so
my sister.
All right, let's talk about trains because people have all turned off now because we're talking about wrestling from the 80s.
Are you going to make any WWF trains?
Yeah. How many employees do you have now?
I've lost count. I think in North America, 32 maybe, something like that.
So it's a hobby. I personally think, and I've said this ad nauseum on this podcast, I personally think this hobby's growing like crazy, mostly because people have access to it now that they never had access to it before. You don't need to be at an NMRA meet to realize there's this fantastic hobby of model railroading. You can just be on your phone.
So it is growing on a broader scale, yes. Right now, as in spring, summer 2024, it's in a bit of a slump. And the reason for that is people are very nervous about the economy and they're nervous about the upcoming election. There's uncertainty. They don't know which way the election is going to go. They don't know which way the economy is going to go. And because of that, we've seen a real softening of sales. The way that we have compensated, if you look at Rapido's catalog, is we're bringing out so much more stuff, right? Because the sales of in a particular locomotive, it can be down 10, 20% on what it would normally be. So, and certain reruns are not getting the same kind of numbers they used to get. I think that, I'm going to look at the numbers right now while we're talking, actually. I'm going to look at the numbers on the FL9. We're doing the Morrison Knudsen rebuilds, and I don't think the orders are even high enough for us to make them. So certain reruns like that is where we're seeing that. All right, I can't get you the sales numbers because it wants a new password, and I don't know how to do that. So
I had the same experience this after. You can't do anything anymore with these passwords. I can't remember any of my passwords.
Well, what
you used to have password 7 months ago? Check a different one.
No, the system saves the old password, and then it automatically tries to put in the old password. So when I try and get a new password, it's a mess. I can try, but it's no point. Anyway, so but I do know the numbers. Last time I looked at them, which was Friday probably or Thursday. This is a Monday we're talking. Were not great. So that's where we're seeing it. If it's a new model that everyone's wanted for ages, yeah, the orders are still great. But if you compare like the FA1, which is a good model, it's doing okay. And you compare that with something. Let's look at something that's similar, like the PAs. The PAs. A year or two ago, we're selling at much higher numbers. Where we're really seeing is on freight cars. Freight cars are really hit and miss. Certain freight cars of ours are doing phenomenally, and they're home runs. And other freight cars, like we're struggling. We've got 3 Penzi freight cars coming out. And what people are saying is, your freight car is beautiful, but I've got another manufacturer's model that has no detail, but I got to save my money for the new locomotives you're bringing out that I want. And I don't have the money for the freight cars. So I'm going to use the 20-year-old freight cars on my layout, and I'll spend money on the locomotive. Whereas during COVID, obviously, people had money to buy the locomotives and the 20 new freight cars. So that's what we're seeing. We are seeing a softening, and that's why we've had to bring out so many more models, so that we can keep our growth going.
But then, don't you have to hang on? Don't you have to deal then with all the mold costs?
Yeah. So tooling costs are expensive. One way to do it is something like you do a C30-7, then you do a C36-7. You do an FA2, then you do an FA1. We couldn't save anything from that because they're totally different. But I think the trucks we could reuse the trucks. Off the top of my head, I may be wrong. Bill's probably listening to this saying, no, we didn't reuse the trucks, but I think we did. But and there's ways to reuse tooling to mix in reruns with new runs. Like we've got a new run of the Horizon cars did very, very well. So we're not tooling everything from scratch, but certainly some of the projects we're finding are not as high as they were a year or two ago, and that's why we have to bring out more of a variety. And yeah, the tool it affects our bottom line, having to tool out more models.
How do you keep? Have you started production on the 1937 AAR boxcar yet?
No, we haven't closed the order book for that. So those are actually doing pretty well. I want
to get a bunch of those. What's the minimum I got to get for my own paint scheme?
If your own paint scheme, off the top of my head, I think it's really 300 for a freight car. But if it's a similar paint scheme to like it's the one we've already doing and just changing the printing, it's lower than that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the orders for that are actually not bad, and I thought they were terrible because I didn't realize I was looking them up that it's not just under product code 180. It's like 180, 181, 180. So I was like, yeah, orders for these suck. Put them on hold. And then Bill says, Jason, did you look up all the numbers?
Whoa, hold that decision.
Oh, I killed the H6 in our meeting 2 weeks ago. I killed the H6 steam engine. The orders suck. We're not making it. And then Jordan points out the order deadline hasn't happened yet. Oh, cancel that. But the spreadsheet went around to the whole team beforehand with big red writing to be killed. And they started to panic. It's like, why are you killing a project that haven't closed the books yet? Oh. It wasn't April 15th? No, it's June 15th. Oh, sorry.
See, this is what you got to learn to teach yourself to say. This is what I do with my son now, who will point out something about the business, and I'll say, no, that's wrong. And then he'll show me where it's right. And I'll go, I knew that. I'll just go, I knew that. I was testing you.
Yeah. Now, Jason, I have a question for you. Getting back to things. We might say you have a bit of an appreciation of buses.
Yes.
Okay. You're not thinking of buying a subway car at some point in the future because you're now turning out these Toronto
I have owned, Rapido has owned trains, and they are, it's like you just turn on the tap from the bank account to the sewer and just pour the money through the train to the sewer. And that's why we created the VIA Historical Association. So now we can donate money from Rapido to the VHA and get a nice big fat tax receipt for all that stuff. But it's the VHA. That's also taken up a lot of my time too. Is the VIA Historical Association. We've bought a locomotive, an FP90 locomotive that's being painted now. We're just in the process of painting 3 passenger cars that we bought. We've just won an auction for another car, and we're bidding on another car. So we're putting together a Via Rail Canada 50th anniversary train for 2028.
Nice.
And the goal is to have Via Rail run it across the country. So it can't be old stuff. It has to be restored and then upgraded to head end power so that Via can pull it with their locomotives and power the locomotives.
Yeah, how about your Via Bud car? How's that coming along?
Via Bud cars are good. They're both operational. We actually have 5, but 3 of them are just like tool cars. But the 2 running ones are 6133 and 6215. That's RDC1, RDC2. 6133 sprouted a new leak, which was annoying, but 6215 is running very nicely, and they're great. They're not part of our 50th anniversary train, so they're more for an eventual museum or some kind of thing that we'll have one day. We're actually working on a long-term plan now as to what is the goal past 2028. And if you ask us right now, the answer is we don't know. One thing at a time.
So why did you started the Via Historical Association partly as a tax relief?
No, I started it because Rapido was paying all the money. for these cars,
Right.
and it was not taxable. That's just a bonus. But when people are spending money, we can still write that off too. But the issue is that we couldn't take donations because we couldn't give tax receipts because we're a private company. So by being a charity, then other people can donate, and we've had some very big donors to VHA who believe in the same things we do, and they're funding. We had one donor fund the purchase and restoration of these 3 passenger cars. We had another donor who's funded most of the locomotive purchase. So we've got donors, and people get tax receipts in Canada. And now, if you're an American and you want to donate to VHA, as long as it's a large number of $5,000 or more, you get a tax receipt. So we've partnered with an American charity, fully above board legally. It's all done properly. And you can donate through our partner charity in the U.S. called CAF, and then we'll get 92% of the funds or something like that, which is worth it to make it to get these donations from the U.S. So I hope that some U.S. customers or listeners who are listening now, who decided that they didn't need the $10 million in their bank account, maybe they can give $500,000 to us, and we can restore more equipment.
You're restoring those down in Toronto, and now is some of it being contracted out or all volunteer work?
A lot of it's contracted out. So the painting is all contracted out to professionals. It has to be. But the restoration is done mostly by volunteers, led by Chris Fox, who's a locomotive engineer, locomotive mechanic, and he's our magic guy who can do everything. So he's the leader of that, and he got the LRC locomotive that belongs to the Toronto Railway Historical Association. That was parked outside for a decade. And he got that running, properly running, running down the track, pulling passenger cars. It's fabulous.
What does CAF stand for?
I don't know. You're asking me too much. I gotta look that up too.
You've partnered with an organization called CAF.
It's CAF America, and I don't know what CAF, and it's called CAF America. If I go to cafamerica.org, which is their website, then maybe they say what CAF stands for. But there's a number of companies like CAF that they're for global giving. So say you have a cause that you feel strongly about that's in a different country, you can donate to it and get a tax receipt in the U.S. And they have similar organizations like that in other countries as well. But yeah, everything says CAF America. I don't know what it stands for. Oh, Charities Aid Foundation America.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you help me get Bill Schneider on the podcast?
He'd love to come on the podcast. Bill he knows a lot more than I do.
It's hard to get him on the podcast. I have asked him, and he's like, yeah. And then I send him a text, and he doesn't answer it.
There are a lot of Bill Schneiders out there. You're probably sending the text to the wrong
No, because last year Springfield or the year before, he goes, yeah, I got your text. I'm so busy. And I'm like, yeah. And I go, oh, you think running a podcast is just a part-time gig here? I'm busy. You don't know what busy is, buddy.
There you go. Well, that's a great way to get him to come on.
That's right.
Berate him to 3,000 people.
Throw things at him. Yep, that's Lionel's way. If it doesn't work, let's force it.
Yeah, let's just
send him a text and say, Jason said you have to come on the podcast.
I live by this motto and this motto alone. When they tell me I can't do it, I do it twice and I take pictures.
Only now that you have a cell phone, though.
Yeah, now I got a cell phone, so it's easy to take the
Jason,
picture.
I had a question for you.
Does it involve Kodachrome by any chance?
No, but it involves
gives you nice bright colors.
Kodachrome colors.
Give the greens of summer. Make it all the world.
Or the armor yellow of Union Pacific.
I got a Nikon camera. I like to take the photographs.
Photographs.
You know what you guys have just done now. Now I'm at this point in the podcast. I got to stop. I got to go on YouTube. I got to find somebody doing a cover of Kodachrome. And it can't be anybody that's that good at it. And now I got to do this. This is taking me.
You want the accordion cover?
Yeah, this is taking. No, you can't have the
Kodachrome as covered by the Schmengi brothers.
Yeah,
there you go.
And you think and Bill, you think I'm not busy?
Black and white. Kodachrome, it gives us the nice bright colors, gives us the green to summer, makes you think all the world's a sunny day. Oh yeah, I got a Nikon camera, love to take a photograph, so mama don't take
Okay, Dave, you were talking. Sorry.
Yes, well, I just had a quick question for you. I was noticing on trainorders.com recently that there was some debate about road names and locomotive cab numbers for the C36-7 run.
Yes.
and I saw you discuss the 9000s in Union Pacific.
Yes.
And I was curious if it sort of goes back to the discussion you had about second releases. Is that going to be a second part of the second release of the C36, or is that going to be
no? It's part of the first release.
The first
so that
release?
was a genuine oversight on our part. And I mean, the thing about Rapido is that people don't understand this, and it's the same with any company, is that it's impossible to be the world's greatest expert on 175 different models. It's just impossible to do that. So we do the best we can in terms of research, development, etc. You guys still there, by the way? Because I just hit my computer and
I am still here.
No,
Okay, good.
I left in disgust.
Yeah, Lionel's fed up.
During my last
Lionel
interview,
stopped out pouting. So
I was yabbering, and then I was gone. I just hear them say, "Wonder where Jason went." So anyway, so what I was saying is that it was a genuine oversight. Jeff is the project manager. He's done an amazing job. And we were doing the MP ones, and we wanted to do a variety of different body styles. We thought we'd do the later UPs and the ditch lights. And then as soon as we announced it, a whole bunch of people said all together, why aren't you doing the 9000s? Do the 9. I need 9000s. And so we looked at it, and now people would say this stuff all the time. You know, I modeled 1987. Your details are correct for 1988. So why don't you do this version? Or, you know, I modeled the Northeast, and your numbers are for Midwest. So why don't you change the numbers? We get that stuff all the time. But this one, and we have to say, you know, it's called modeling. You can do some modeling, but
Right.
in this case,
What?
we no, that's another topic. I've opened a can of worms. In this case, we realized no, it was a genuine oversight. We should have announced the 9000s because they're exactly the same detail-wise as our Missouri Pacific units with just slightly different paint, like different lettering, but the paint's the same.
Different lettering, literally.
Different lettering. And unfortunately, it's different lettering on every single cab. But we'll do that.
Because it was done in-house at their shop. It's one of those weird engines because, I mean, Union Pacific, they were all Mopac originally, and then some of them were renumbered twice, some of them were renumbered once, some of them were never renumbered, but all of them got relettered. So there's a complete smattering, but the details stay relatively similar. But I thought it was really amazing to watch you discuss with these guys on train orders, and a couple of the guys, as you said, were very knowledgeable and they knew the history of the fleet and which ones lasted until the end. I double checked a couple of their claims, but I thought you handled it really, really well. I thought they responded well, and I think that's a win for Rapido in my book.
If people are civil, we'll always listen. Sometimes we say we can't make the change for whatever reason, but sometimes we can. And this one was so simple. But I'm looking at the artwork for the UPC 30. Every locomotive number has different artwork because there is no consistency whatsoever in the numbering process.
So
in fact, from one side of the engine to the other side of the engine, they're in different locations. So thank you, UP, for making our lives extremely difficult. But there's a whole page that says, like, oh my God, I'm looking at it right now. 2415 has the number. So 2415 and 2419 look relatively similar. 2422 and 29 are totally different. That's on the left side of the cab. The right side of the cab, the spacing is totally different, like totally different.
It's amazing. So when do you expect to get that news out to everybody else? Is that a second release? How do you?
No, I thought Jordan posted something about it, but he hasn't yet. So by the time this is being listened to, which is going to be a little while after recording it, it'll be out there, and it'll be out there. So people
fair enough. Again, this is the kind of thing that I think really sets you guys apart, not just being able to listen to modelers who are reasonable and civil and make a good point, but you also do it in a way that I think is very accessible. The fact that you're out there modeling with us, that you're out there hoping for a certain model from your own company, that you're willing to take a risk on behalf of other modelers. I mean, every operating session, you have to delegate tasks to have a successful operating session. That's a fact. And the way you run your company, the way you delegate the people you've selected to be part of your team, I think everybody here at the AML can agree that it's a wonderful symbiosis between Rapido Trains and
fast track to model road.
Hang on. There's a very definite rule about that. The only person that gets to say Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model roading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Well, that's not a rule I've seen before.
Well,
now I know. And so now I'll say rapidotrains.com, right? Because that's different.
You can say Rapido Trains as many times as you want. Nothing's going to happen.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Someone missed a cue there.
Well, fair enough.
No.
he
The only
did-
person, Jason, let's be clear. After you and I spent hours and hours and hours and hours hammering out the sponsorship deal, I made it very clear that the only person that would have the power to say Rapido Trains.
You're a fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
And which would inspire a commercial, was yours truly, the evil overlord. There's a reason I'm called.
So when Jason said it earlier, I should not have responded.
You can respond all you want, but there was no commercial.
Okay.
all right, so it's a legal term. Okay, I see.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
All right, it's
Now,
it's all about transparency. We've been very consistent with that.
Exactly. Now we could possibly make a sub rule to subsection A if the guy that's actually sponsoring the podcast says that maybe he should actually have the power to instill the commercial. I don't know.
You'd think.
Yeah, you'd think.
Should we have a conversation on this right now? Maybe?
No, I don't think
Jason,
so.
Maybe you should give him $5 more, Jason, and he'll acquiesce.
I think I'm pretty happy with the way things are going.
$5 more. That's a 50% increase. I'm not giving him that.
Exactly. Come on, you're away.
Well played.
All right, so we carry on, Dave. You were making a good point.
No, I think that the way and this is something that I picked up on before, and again, Jason's been here on the Onondaga Cutoff. We had a ball. Love to do that again someday. And every time I interact with people at Rapido, it's an atmosphere of cooperation. It's modelers having fun. We can be zany, we can be crazy, but it's about getting things right and having fun. And when there's a mistake, there's ownership. When there's an idea, there's a listener. When something goes awry, it's transparent. And you go to Springfield. We've said this, talk about ad nauseum, Lionel, and Bruce as well. We've talked about Springfield and what an unbelievable crossroads of the hobby that the Springfield Train Show has become. The Railroad Hobby Expo, I believe, is the official title. But when you go to the Rapido booth, you get to be part of the crowd for a while. You get to hang out and talk to the project managers. If Jason's there, you can shake Jason's hand. You can talk. You can see displays. When I was there, they had the very first prototype models production models, I should say, of the new 44 tonners. These little tiny Joule engines. They were unpainted, but here they were running around a loop of track, pulling almost the entire loop of track worth of boxcars. So you can see how powerful they are. You can appreciate the quality and the workmanship that goes into it. And if you don't like it, there's the guys to talk to that designed it right there. So it's a real wonderful exchange of ideas. And I don't see anybody the way Jason, it's the way you bring your personality to the company is something I've always admired. And it's a lot of fun to sort of be along for the ride with you guys.
It's fun, but it's stressful too. Like it's kind of like we're all like the duck that you don't see its feet fiercely flapping onto the water. It can be a challenge so the company has grown and we're doing our best to keep that atmosphere of fun, but it actually can be stressful at times. Mohan, our COO, is actually in China now. And I can confidently say that when this is broadcast, he'll be still in China because he's there for 4 months. And we needed him to be in China. It was his idea in order to get all these products delivered this year, he had to be in China because we can solve problems so much more quickly where you can sit down and say, no, that's not working, do it this way. And that's what he's been doing. He's been there already, as the time we're recording this, has already been there for a couple of weeks. And he's at the factory sitting down and saying, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Fix it. Do it this way. That's wrong. Do it this way. And solving issues is actually right there now with Jürgen from ESU, Jürgen Linder, who owns ESU. And they're together working on the sound samples over decoders and saying, they're doing the fine tuning together at the factory to ensure that it ends up being perfect. And we don't have to, because every time we send samples to Canada or to the US, because we have a lot of US, we have a US company technically, and we've got a lot of our employees are in the States. So when we send the samples, you're waiting 3, 4, 5, sometimes 8 days for the sample to show up, and that just delays it. So the only way that we can make our targeted sales this year is to have Mohan there to speed things along. And we may do it again next year. We'll see. I mean, so far it's working very, very well.
How
But
do you coach? And I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm fascinated by the way you lead this company. It's not a huge company; it's grown a lot, but you guys make it.
I think we're a medium-sized business now. is what
Yeah,
you call us.
but here's the thing: is that it's an international medium-sized company. Like I know, like look, my little midlife crisis is ongoing, just like yours. And one of the things I know both you and I have discussed before and struggle with a little bit is the balance. How do you balance? How's that working? Like how you're balancing employees overseas, your time with your family, your passion for the hobby versus work. I would love to hear.
The balance is always a challenge. It's always a challenge. So I do have to schedule into my calendar model railroad time. It doesn't always work because Jordan came to the house the other day and we were going to work on the layout all day. We are going to take a day virtually off, and we both ended up working at Rapido stuff for most of the day. The turbo samples had to be tested with decoders on my layout, and another friend of mine, John, was here, and he spent the whole time putting little parts on the turbos, and then we were testing turbos, and Jordan was doing social media posts, and I was responding to emails, and we looked and we only got maybe an hour on the layout the whole day. So we're trying again this week, and we're going to turn off our phones. But it is
I know
it is a challenge. Finding balance, and I think another word you could even use is work-life harmony rather than work-life balance.
I agree. Especially this day and age, because it never stops. It never stops.
Right, exactly.
And I think an example of that, Jason, you just recently had a trip with all of your family or some of your family over to UK, and you had some interesting things you're doing over there you're posting about.
So I've been to the UK 3 times in the last year, and on 2 of those trips I brought family with me. And in the case of Dahlia, she was just working for us on the trip. So I brought her as my assistant. Isaac, my son, he wasn't doing so much Rapido work on the trip, though we did a lot of social media posts and some things like that. He was doing mostly his homework because he's in grade 6. But I'm heading back to the UK in a few days, and my son, I'm actually meeting him there because he's on a gap year program in Israel. And we're meeting in the UK, and he's going to go with me to Germany because we're going to meet up with Jurgen, and we're going to go to Miniature Wonderland and see our products in service on the big model railroad there, which is going to be exciting. So it is. I don't really go to China anymore. And one of the reasons that I brought Dahlia with me to England and I brought Isaac with me is that ever since COVID, I've had a lot of trouble being away from my family for a long time.
That's exactly I feel the same way, and it's a struggle. Yeah. It's a struggle because there's other people that need our investment, our time, but delegating those things is sometimes impossible. Other times it's possible, but it requires a lot of time. Yeah. And I admire the way you do it.
Well, what I've done is I used to be doing virtually everything. So the company for the longest time was Janet, Bill, Dan Garcia, and myself, just the 4 of us. And so Bill would design a product, and I was writing the manuals, and I was doing the sound, and I was it was 1,000,001 things. And of course, I burnt out. I even thought about selling the company in 2017, 2018 because I was so burnt out. But since then, I've got a business coach, and I've hired a lot of people. So Mohan's the COO. Janet has really stepped into a role not as a bookkeeper, but as a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. COO is Chief Operating Officer. We've now hired a marketing manager named Natasha. She's wonderful. And we've hired a project coordinator named Tibby. And she's wonderful too, because she can take the stuff off of Mohan's shoulders. So by delegating and being able to delegate, it means that we can, get through a day without putting in 16 hours.
Well, but it also means now, and this is something I found with the Onondaga Cutoff, and I think it's consistent following really your model, is that you now, if you're going to be a leader, you have to have time to sit and reflect on what is needed at that time. You have to be in touch with the energy of that moment, given the crowd that you're working with, right?
Oh, absolutely. But go on. Sorry.
No, but I was just going to say, if unless you allow yourself some time for that, because even when you delegate, that's great. Let experts be experts. I'm a big believer in that, but there still needs to be that vision for where we're going, and that's the responsibility. I think that you really can't delegate that. That's all up to the leader.
I'd say the vision is shared. It's not just me. But in terms of what takes up my time now, a big mistake was being the project manager on the turbo train because I had to be. It's my project, it's my baby. But that took a gazillion hours, and it's not finished yet. As we're talking right now, I still haven't written the instructions. And because I'm really pulled different ways. The biggest challenge for me is people, and that now that Rapido is a big team, I need to stay on top of people and spend time with them, find out what's bothering them, what their worries are, what their ideas are, etc. And while we have team meetings like every week, I do need to actually sit down with Bill and chat, sit down with Dan Darnell, sit down with Jeff, sit down with Michael Humbert, and all these other people that work at Rapido and spend time with them. And now that Mohan's in China, we're meeting almost every day. And there's always an email when I get up in the morning of all the crap that he dealt with. I have to review. So it really is constant. And it's just, I sometimes feel there's not enough hours in the week. Now, it's not like it used to be where I had no choice. I had to put in 70, 80, sometimes 90 hours in order for the company's products to actually get out the door. Now I have a big team to help me with that. But the big team needs my TLC. I have to be there for them. And that, and I can't, Natasha and I the other day had a 2-hour meeting to go over, she started this in October and we had to go over September. We had to go over all the different things that she's been working on and how it's coming along. And I had to, we thought the meeting would be half an hour. It was after 2 hours. I had to give her that time, right? So, that was modeling time that I spent in a meeting with Natasha. But it was worthwhile. I had to do it. So it's just finding the balance and squeezing in modeling time. And I have to be very careful not wasting time. So
I find that to be a really powerful tool, but I think again, watching from the outside, it's something that I think you've done a great job of. Getting your family involved, taking the bus trip with your family. These are wild memories that are very much you. And so it's a piece of dad to be able to spend time with dad doing what dad does. And the bus is not in the basement with the layout. Riding a bus is a whole different experience.
Yes.
So there's a neat balance or harmony that you're finding there as well.
I actually had on my calendar to work on the layout today. And then I all of a sudden on Saturday we were at synagogue and I was with some friends chatting and I just said, hey, you guys want to go to take the bus to this conservation area on Monday? Sure. Right. And so that's when I sent out the email the next day. But I actually said to her, well, I had a layout day planned. And she said to me, this is equally quality time. I said, yes, you were right. This is absolutely equally quality time. And it was great. We had a wonderful time.
And having, I call them wisdom keepers but having a wife that can say that, and we can trust that to be as is, just the way you're able to say it just there. It's a beautiful thing. Knowing that what you're dealing with is what you're getting. That's awesome. And I find having a sounding board like that, and it changes depending on the day, but I think it's beautiful the way that you've built your family in concert with your business, and you built your business with some of the same values that you built your family. Like it's amazing to watch.
But I tell you right now, I do not want these kids to inherit the business. Absolutely not. I will not burden my children with this was my passion, my dream, my business. Right. Well, and they each have their own passions and dreams.
That's all you can hope for.
Dahlia wants to be a surgeon. Isaac is 12, but he wants to be a veterinarian. I think Boaz wants to be the Canadian ambassador to Israel. I think he's got a very specific. Boaz, he's almost 19 now. He always says he's going to be prime minister. Now, when he was a kid, he wanted to be prime minister. So when he was about 12, 13 or so, he's still saying I'm going to be prime minister. I said, Boaz, we're going to watch a television show called Yes Minister, and then we're going to watch something called Yes Prime Minister. Now, those of you who don't know, it's a British show from 1978-ish up until the 1990s that really looked at it was a satire of the way government works in the UK, and it is actually very, very accurate to how it works in Canada as well. It's scaringly accurate. And there's a character on it, Sir Humphrey Appleby, who is the head of. He's a high-ranking civil servant, and of course he stymies the politician at every step of the way. Always. And after a few episodes, my son turns to me and says, "I don't want to be prime minister. I want to be Sir Humphrey Appleby." And ever since then, he's sort of been on this path to be a civil servant. So I think that's his ultimate plan.
I think it's great. I think the passion they find, there's an inspiration for that, and I think that's what's so beautiful about what you're doing. I think it's great. So I'm just happy to be here, as they say, and I admire what you're doing.
Okay, so you, Jason, who owns Rapido Trains.
You're a fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
You and Dave are two of the most passionate guys about model railroading I think I've ever met. I mean, there's lots of people that are very passionate about the hobby. But when I try to describe either you or Dave to somebody that's not a model railroader, it's very hard because I thought I was a passionate guy, and I'm not even close to you guys. So,
well, Dave wins. No, Dave wins the prize.
Well, let me finish. I'm talking here.
Fine.
I'm talking here.
Fine. Okay, keep talking. You can talk. It's your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And if I ever find out who the sponsor is, did you even go to Springfield this year?
I did not.
Man.
I was doing I did a meet and greet at Train World on Long Island about 2 weeks before. And I was not going, and I went to England the week before. So I just couldn't do 3 trips in 3 weeks.
No, I was so excited because I made this huge sign for behind our booth that said, "Sponsored by Rapido Trains."
You're a fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
I was saying Dave wins the prize for passion though. Because
you both have it. What is it? What is it about?
He wins the prize for time management. Dave goes to the bathroom and a book about signaling comes out. Like, holy moly! Like, it's just I don't know how you manage your time so well, but you must have a laptop tray in the bathroom. And
I have a laptop on my train. People ask, and I don't watch a lot of TV. You know, the kids have a couple shows that they watch, and we'll sit down periodically and watch with them. But we try and keep the kids off the screens as much as we can. And they're up there. They do Legos, and I can do that for a little while. I can throw a football or go around and kick a soccer ball in the backyard with the kids. It's things like that. Take a quick bike ride this time of the year. But the hour commute from where I live to where I work, which is all on the train, is golden time. I can either sleep if I stayed up too late playing with trains the night before or writing something or what have you, taking pictures, which is what I was doing before. Or I can wake up, get on the train, and if I'm inspired, I can lay out 3 pages or 4 pages before I get to work. And
amazing.
You just get it out. That's the key is like with creating stuff like this is you can't, you're not going to ever sit down and finish a whole piece, even if it's just a simple, 2,500 or 3,000 word article. Like, you're not going to get the whole thing out at once, but you can get out the core theme that you're shooting for. And you can certainly go back and fill in the blanks once you've got that core theme. The hardest part is the core theme that I find.
I'm getting the strong feeling, Dave, that you don't spend like 2 hours a night watching WrestleMania.
No. No. And what's crazy is that it's fun. Look, I love 80s stuff as much as you do, Jason, because we share that. We talked about that years ago. Like, there's a common bond in music with us, in styles, movies, shows. Like, I love it, and my kids love it too. All my kids have their favorite 80s songs, and they all love sundry 80s movies because that's what I watch. So when I see it, we're watching The Goonies, or we watch Star Wars.
I love The Goonies.
Last Crusade. It's such good Ghostbusters. There's so much good stuff. One Crazy Summer. I mean,
your kids aren't old enough yet to be watching Breakfast Club and 16
No,
Candles.
not yet. But One Crazy Summer they love. They think that one's great.
So we did a video in Chicago. It was part of our bus tour that ended up being a minivan tour. We did a video at Shermer High School, which is where the location of the Breakfast Club.
No kidding, that's awesome.
So it's now an Illinois State Police office. So I can tell you guys the story, and because I didn't put it on the video, but this is what happened. So we sit in the parking lot and we're watching the scene where Brian Johnson gets dropped off at the school, so that Jordan and I are going to recreate that word for word, and we did. We recreated the scene word for word. Then we pull up in front of the Shermer High School, this building, and there's a policeman standing there because it's a police station. And I said to him, "Can we film here?" "Oh yeah, people film here all the time. Don't worry about it." Okay, good. So we're sitting there, we're filming the scene, and we get the scene in the can, and then we want to film the introduction where we pull up, and Jeff is going to walk across in a trench coat like he's Judd Nelson.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry, John Bender, and we're going to almost hit him with the car. Okay. And so we're getting him ready. And then the police officer comes running out like a bat out of hell. He comes right out. Stop. You cannot film that. You got to get out of here. No, somebody tried to film that scene. They hit the guy. And the captain's been watching it. They said, get these people out of here now. You're trespassing. Get out. We got chased off the property by Illinois.
You got chased off the property because you were too prototypical.
All right. So then we say, where are we going to go? We got to film this scene. Now it's reverse angle, so you don't need to have the building in the background. It's just be a parking lot with some houses behind it. So Jeff says, well, there's this abandoned office building not far from here. We can go there. So we go there, and Jordan's in my car, Jeff and Jeremy in the other car, and Jeff's car. And we see all the signs, no trespassing, cameras, police will be called, yada, yada, yada. And come on, we just drive in, and we're setting up the scene, and a police car pulls in. This is now Chicago police, not Illinois State Police. Okay, so the police pull up. So Jordan's like, "We're gonna be arrested. We're gonna be arrested." I said, relax, get in the car, and we got in the car. I drove around to where the police car was sitting, about 300 feet away, and I opened my window and I said, "Hi, did they call you about us?" No, I'm just hanging out here. I said, "Well, we just got chased off Illinois State Police property. Want to film a scene? Do you mind if we just film it here?" And he says, "Well, you're trespassing." "Yeah, but no, I hurt anybody. Go ahead."
Bonus.
With the blessing of this police officer, we finally filmed that scene. It's like a 2-second scene, right? But we got it done, and I love. And so, and the end of the video is we took the S8 at the end of the Breakfast Club, where it's written by Brian Johnson to Principal Dick Vernon, and Jordan reads it as an essay to Janet, and we had so much fun. The problem is that the video actually has no model train announcements or reviews, so no one's watching it. It's our best video we ever did. We went to Blues Brothers locations. We went to Dark Knight locations. We went Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller. We had such a good time, and it was a fantastic video, and no one's watching it. So please watch our video about our American bus trip.
I did not know that there was this component to. I watched parts of that bus trip video, but not that part.
Should have watched the whole thing.
I'm gonna watch the whole.
If you're watching a Rapido video, you always watch the whole thing because weird stuff often happens.
Weird stuff happens, but this is a bus trip. I'm like, what the hell are they doing?
I got converted into a 1960s Cyberman in one of our videos, and if you don't watch the end, you don't see me kill Jeremy and chase everybody else out of the building.
You're getting some pretty good view numbers though on your videos. Like here's one behind the scenes in the model train industry, 87,000 views.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, and those are really mainly by people saying, "They stole our jobs. They took our jobs." all the ones in China. They took our jobs. There was one video I posted that really went viral from all the "they took our jobs" people. And there was a guy posts a message saying, "Slave labor, I could never buy a model train again." And somebody else posts, "Hey, dude, Slave Girl has a more expensive phone than I do."
I was going to ask a question now. Oh, yeah. Well, last thing we're going to cover. We got to cover this van trip across America.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was a great trip. It was amazing, and we had Jordan and I did this bus ride in our new bus in 2016 across Canada. And we've been talking for a while saying, that was so much fun. We have to do something like that again. So we planned to do a bus trip across America. But the bus wasn't ready. So we did a van trip across America. The good thing is once I heard word that the bus was not working as reliably as it should have, we had magnets made for the side of a van, and we rented a minivan. And we had magnets made that had the Rapido Big America Bus Tour, whatever it was called. And so we were ready. The bus didn't work. Throw the magnet side of the van, drive a van across the country. It was a lot of fun. We met almost 700 modelers in more than a dozen locations, and we had really good turnouts. I mean, the regular number we saw at most places was 50 to 60 people. Which was
that's pretty
phenomenal.
Good.
Yeah. Like in Flint, Michigan, I thought, here we are. I was getting a cold at this point because I'd shaken a lot of people's hands. And I'm developing a cold, and we figure, I'm so tired. We got our last stop. It's Flint, Michigan. There'll be 15 guys there. We'll sit around, we'll schmooze, and then we can go back to the hotel and get a good night's sleep. There were 60 people in Flint, Michigan. They'd driven from all over Michigan for this presentation. And we were busy. It went longer than we anticipated. We were there for more than 2 hours. I had a great time meeting everybody, but I was dying by the end of it. Like, and everyone at the end, like the shop owner wanted to shake my hand. Like, don't shake my hand. They really don't shake. It's bad enough that Jordan and Jeremy have to be in the car with me for the next few hours. Don't shake my hand. But we met people all across. One path from LA to Flint. We went through. Oh gosh, it was LA, Phoenix, Berlin, New Mexico, Dallas. I then flew home for the Jewish Sabbath and a Jewish holiday and flew back on Sunday. I missed Oklahoma City and Kansas City. And then I met them up again for St. Louis. And then we went to 2 different places in Chicago, went to Lombard and Des Plaines, and then Flint, Michigan. So we really, it was a big trip. And Jordan was on the whole thing. Like, he was the only one who was in the van from start to finish. Wow. And so he was away from home for 2 solid weeks. But it was a great time, and the consensus amongst the Rapido team is that we had so much fun doing it. We want to do them again, but like do them like for a week at a time instead of 2 weeks. 2 weeks was long. So we'll pick a different area in the States, and we'll do 4 to 6 places, and then 6 months later or a year later we'll do another 4 to 6 places or whatever. So we really enjoyed. We had a great time meeting everybody, and it wasn't like us presenting. It was mostly a Q&A and just chatting. So I would do a spiel for 5 minutes at the beginning, and then we just talk, and just it's like we brought the Springfield show to these different hobby shops and clubs. The booth, the Rapido booth at Springfield, these different hobby shops, and while and when we had Jeff there, it was great. So Jeff was at the Chicago locations, and Jeff lives in Chicago. He's not from there originally, but he's been there for many years, and he lives in Chicago proper. And so he knows everything about Chicago. And so people were asking us about all this Chicago stuff. And I said, ask Jeff. He's right beside me. Ask Jeff. I kept sending everyone to Jeff. So Jeff had this crowd. I remember in Des Plaines, he had this crowd of like 15 people around him. Well, I had 2 guys. Jordan had 2 guys. Jeremy had 2 guys. And Jeff had 15 guys he's talking to. Go talk to Jeff. But yeah, it was great. So we had Jeff join us for the Chicago bit. Josh joined us. We have a lot of J's in our company. Josh joined us when I flew back. Josh came in my place because you really can't do it with 2 people. And then I flew back with Jeremy. And then we had Craig with us from LA, and he left before Jeremy and I landed because we wouldn't have enough seats in the van with all our stuff. So it was a wonderful experience. I love meeting the modelers. And you know what the great thing is? It's like we met these people all over the United States, and we have so much in common with them, right? And one of the things we did not do is talk politics, because it didn't matter whether they were a Democrat or Republican. We were all together talking trains, and politics didn't enter into it. And I hear all these stories about families broken up because half the family's Democrat, half the family's Republican. And honestly, you got to bring model railroading to the masses in the U.S., because if you all just play with trains and talk trains, you won't get in any fights. Right. And it was great. It was really great.
I can't agree more with that. I think this is something, Lionel, this is something you've been making the point of for years too, is that you can put 2 model railroaders together and nothing else matters but the trains. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your history. It doesn't matter your age, your profession, your politics. It's just, oh my God, somebody I can talk to about trains. And it's
there was a Heineken commercial in Europe, a series of commercials where they would bring,
I love that. Yeah. I know exactly.
They would bring people from totally different walks of life and just have them build flat pack furniture, and they were forbidden from talking about personal information or politics. And everybody got along.
Yep.
Right? Everybody got along. And I look at the people I met all over the United States, and I tell you, I was meeting Republicans and Democrats often in the same room. And everyone I met was a good person. I didn't meet a single bad person. And I really wish that people could look past the politics and realize that at the core, everybody's just a good person, almost everybody. So it was very eye-opening for me, and I really enjoyed that.
You just don't want to waste your time on that sort of stuff. I mean, it's way more important to have friends than it is to be right.
Exactly. And that's the difference. That's the difference between children and adults. Okay. So a child yells at you and gets so angry and says, I hate you. I never talk to you again. And then 5 minutes later, do you want ice cream? Yeah. And that's the end of the child hating you. Right. So children would rather be happy than right. And adults would often rather be right than happy. And I wish that more adults can focus on being happy rather than right.
The joy aspect of the hobby, right, and the happiness that comes from that joy is a central theme for everyone who's a human being. Yes, see, we got a head start because model railroading keeps a lot of us very young.
Yes.
And psychologically, I think that's very important.
So does wrestling figures, Star Wars toys, Matchbox toys, Hot Wheels.
Yeah, 80s movies.
Doctor Who action figures.
Losing my voice to Def Leppard. Yes.
All the other things that are filling my house.
You got to listen to more music, Jace. Then you can just sing, and there'll be less stuff in your house.
Oh, no. I have 350 albums and the collection LPs, and the collection is growing. But please,
I
continue.
love it.
But what you guys are missing, and I'm going to beat this to death. Is social media is changing this hobby day after day after day. I mean, I'm watching this video of the Great American Van Trip, and I see the part where the double decker.
That's why he was so quiet. He wasn't listening to our interview. He's watching the video.
I was in the double decker bus and the stormtrooper.
What else is new? Yep.
And the stormtrooper, and I'm telling you, this hobby is bringing people together. It's like I use the analogy of automobile racing. Almost in every town of substantial size, let's say 20,000 and over in America, you're going to find at least one guy with a race car. Probably you're going to find 2 or 3 guys with a race car, 3 or 4 guys with a race car. And at the end of the day, when you make it to the top level of racing, it's much more exciting than the top level of model railroading, but it's the same basic principle.
I beg to differ.
Well, okay. But it's the same basic principle. In every town of 20,000, you're going to find a minimum of 1 model railroad and probably 2 or 3. And
Right.
And now,
yeah.
And now we're being joined together. You're finding people, and it's like, I know it. You said it once, Dave, when we were having one of our fireside chats 3 or 4 times ago, and it's bringing a whole new energy to the hobby. That's what it's doing, and the energy is it's like a solar flare. The energy is sucking people in, and it's bringing people into the hobby. And like, okay, sure, maybe right now sales aren't what they used to be, but the next time it spikes, it's going to be higher than the last time it spiked.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. But I also think that you say that racing is more exciting than model railroading. I think that we should have live streams of me dropping feeder wires through Gilda Station on my lip. That's going to be like the most
there's
exciting
what you want a marathon of
ever.
No, the way you want to
forget the old Athearn Hustler races. Shron dropping
rubber band drive, right, Bruce? That's it.
Right.
No. The way you want to do that is you have the Hulkster come in and he picks Jason up on his shoulders and then body slams him through the layout with the feeder wires in his hand.
So funny you should say that. Kevin Rudko from Signal Logic Systems was over here, and he was working on the signals on my signal system for a while. And so he's saying, "What's the timeline for this?" I said, "Okay, well, top deck, that's ready for your signals anytime now, and then we can put more scenery in and more like detail parts and line poles and stuff. And then middle deck, I thought it was going to take 2 years, but I'm saying probably 3 to 5 now because I'm pretty busy. But then bottom deck, that's a big job. Yeah, I'm going to tear that out and do it again." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, and in fact, the other part of deck 2 that I haven't started yet, I'm going to tear that out too and do that again." I'm discovering that I keep on having to rip out parts of my layout. So body slamming me over the bottom deck would actually, apart from my back complaining, would actually save some time in dismantling the bottom deck of the layout. But it has to be at the right time.
You got to find your buddy that you body slammed back in grade school and have the Hulk do that on one of your videos.
Yeah, that buddy is 49 years old, and
but his better his back than yours. You got to lay out.
Yeah. I miss that guy. He doesn't speak to me anymore.
Yeah, I got guys like that too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's how life goes. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't a good kid in grade school. So I was bullied.
And I was.
But then instead of just like my wife went and found, she was bullied too, and she went and found some friends amongst the misfits, and they all hung out, and so she had a support network. No, I just went from being bullied by the cool kids to going and bullying people less cool than I was, instead of just being friends with them. And I was pretty miserable. It was an awful time. I look back on that, and I really I don't like the person I was. But obviously, I became the person I am today because of the person I was then. So I can't really regret it. I don't wish I would end up differently because I might be different now. But I do look back and I'm not happy with who I was when I was 12 or 11.
I wasn't happy either because I didn't make it to the NHL.
That's tough.
Yeah,
It's a tough break, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Tough break.
It's that magical time through the ages of 13, 14, 15 when you're really good mediocre and you're starting to move up a couple of tiers and you're thinking you got a shot when in reality you never had a shot.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what changed. What was a big change for me. There've been a number of moments that have been changed. I think I've told you before about that conversation I had with when I was working. I was working at a big high tech firm as a graphic designer, and when I was newly married, 25 years old, and this guy named John said, "Jason, why don't you give me a lift home today?" Which I did, and then he said, "Jason, you have to really change your attitude. You have an attitude problem." I said, "What?" And he said, and he's explaining how, when people, this isn't university, because I spent a lot of time in university, and he said, this isn't university anymore, right? When people are showing their work in the meeting, in the morning meeting, they don't want your critique of it. They just want you to say how cool it looks because you're not their boss. It's great that at that time I was like newly religious Jew. It's like, it's great that you found religion. We don't care. Okay, we don't want to know about it. Okay, I want to have my meat sauce and my milkshake side by side without you pointing out, I can't have that. Okay, so at the time, I was really pissed off, but with hindsight, I realized that conversation was probably the best education I've had in my entire life. Caring about me enough to take me aside and tell me to stop being an idiot, and just be nice and don't worry about being right. And then the second moment came right before I started, around this time when I started Rapido, that I got a speeding ticket on the interstate, and it was a temporary 55 zone. I was going 70, and I got pulled over, and I lied to the guy. Right? I said to him, I thought it was 70, and he knew I was lying, and I got the ticket, and then I realized that was stupid. Why the hell did I lie? Lying is dumb. I don't want to lie anymore, and I actually stopped lying. It took a while, but I stopped lying. And so every time I get pulled over now, which happens occasionally, I just roll down the window and say, "You got me."
That's exactly it, man. That's exactly what they
He starts laughing, and he says, "You're speeding there?" I said, "Oh boy, was I speeding. Sorry."
That's exactly what they want to hear, because 80% of the time, 80 to 85% of the time, people will roll down the window and start arguing with them and giving them a set of stories.
Oh, the best time. I'm turning left in Winnipeg, right after doing a meet and greet presentation there, and it says no left turn until 10 p.m. It's 9:35. So and Starbucks is on the left, so I make a left turn. The lights start flashing. He pulls me over, and I did my usual thing. I open the window. "You got me," and he starts laughing. You couldn't wait or go around the block. I said, "No, Starbucks is over there, and there's nobody here." So I made the left turn, and he couldn't stop laughing. And then he looks at me and says, "This is a rental, isn't it? You're not from here, are you?" And so I gave him my left. "Oh, you're from Ontario. Oh, I'll be back." He goes to his car. My sister-in-law's in the backseat panel. "Oh, we got a ticket. And I see his partner, a young woman, arguing with him. And I said, "We're not getting a ticket." And he comes back to the car. "All right, you were honest with me, and I don't want to do the paperwork. Here's your license. Just don't do it again." And we pull out, and we're not allowed to make a left into the Starbucks. And right, he's right behind me. I actually have to go around the block for this one. But it's beyond, and that it was a real it was a moment. I mean, Sadura was pregnant with our first child with Boaz, and I realized, what kind of role model do I want to be? I want to exhibit honesty. I want to be a good person. I want to help people. I want to be a good person, and I made a conscious effort at the time to stop lying.
I think that it's powerful, Jace, but to be honest, lying is a lot of work.
That's true.
I used to, look, we all used to do it, and some of us still do. But I gave it up years ago because it's just not worth the effort anymore. If I'm going to be able to focus and write something, if I'm going to be able to focus and make a photograph, or focus and play Legos with my son, or whatever, you can't have those alternate realities going on at the same time. It is what it is, and I'm human, and I apologize. Here's what I was thinking. It wasn't the right thing. I was wrong.
Exactly. So we get emails from people who make up cockamamie stories. My model arrived with the nose smashed in. No, it didn't. that nose smashed in does not pass through QC. Okay, there are certain types of damage that can happen from shipping, and we know to recognize the kind of damage. But that's the damage of a train falling off your desk and landing on your layout room floor. And we give those guys a hard time, and we don't fix their models. When somebody emails us and says, "Well, I was so excited I got your model out. I ran it for like 2 hours. I wasn't paying attention. It derailed and fell to the floor. Is there anything you can do?" We will do everything we can to help that guy, right? Everything we can, because he was honest, and we could tell right away. And when they get really angry at us is when we know they're being dishonest, right? It's
Yeah.
like, one guy, he wanted us to, what was the story? He had we're convinced he'd bought a resin shell of an F40 and he wanted the chassis. So he says, your chassis garbage is broke. I need a new one. So he said, absolutely, send it back to us. No, you need to send me a new one. No, look, it is my right. I'm going to call you the Better Business Bureau. Blah, 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 blah. Dude, you never bought an engine. You want our chassis for your resin shell. You never bought an engine, right? You're very bad at this game. So stop. Just be honest. Just be honest. And we have other people who reached out and said, can I buy a shell from you, for whatever reason, whether I've broken it or whatever, can I, and normally we don't do that, but in certain situations, like there was one guy who he lost his layout in a fire. And he was letting me know about that. We were talking about other things. And he mentioned that. And I said, "You lost your layout?" No, the insurance covered it. I said, "What do you need? What do you need?" And we gave him a bunch of models at a discount that we found in our warranty department, because he was talking about how much he misses those models and he can't find them on eBay. And we found him, they weren't perfect, right? So I said we gave him a discount. But this guy was 100% honest. He wasn't an eBay seller who was trying to get a steal out of us or something like that. And we appreciated the honesty, and we could see through it. We could always see through it.
Honesty is you be honest with people. It's so much easier. It's just so much easier. I mean,
yes.
The thing with the police, it's like, you're right. Like, I mean, I learned that. Well, I had already learned that lesson, but years and years and years ago, I was at a Driving School Association of America convention, and I was talking to this state trooper, and we were and I was, we were relaying war stories, and I was telling him I got stopped here, and I blah blah blah, and he says to me, he says, he was it was really cool because he was an Illinois state trooper that lived in the country, and he got to keep his squad car and his motorcycle at home. So nice. It was up to him what he drove that day, blah, blah, unless there was a special assignment. And he says, I was just a few weeks ago, he says, I pulled over this farmer whose license plate was about to fall off. And I was pulling him over to tell him that his license plate was about to fall off. And he says, before I got halfway up the truck, the guy's calling me every name in the book. And I should be doing this, and I should be doing that, and I should be out earning a living, and this and that, and the next thing. And he says, by the time the guy left, he had 5 citations. And all I wanted to do was tell him his license plate was. Yeah. Anyways, we've chewed up enough time. Just so everybody knows behind the scenes, I wanted to do 2 shows on this particular sitting, but one of us was out driving a bus all day.
We can do another show soon. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Well, what did you say? You're going to Europe now?
I'm going to the UK. Yeah.
For how long?
Days. I'm in the UK for 10 days, 9 days. Then I'm going to Germany for a few days, a week.
All right. So then you can meet our buddy David Hyde, because he's going to be in Germany. The symphony the Dallas Symphony Orchestra is touring around Europe.
He just said, need to get it done as I leave for Europe next week.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see him.
Because he's going to Miniature Wonderland as well. You guys should coordinate.
If that rendezvous happens, that picture has to go on the AML.
Page. That would be so cool if the 2 of them.
Here's a quick question. You're going to UK. How did I think I know the answer to this, the sales of the wildly popular Titfield Thunderbolt, how did that turn out in your opinion?
It turned out that's like the most successful project we ever done in the UK. And I think it probably classifies, if you convert to Canadian dollars, as like our second most successful project ever. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a huge one. And when Andy Hardy runs the UK company on my behalf, and when he signed up with me a few years ago, he said the first thing he did was, the first thing I'm going to do is there's this film called The Titfield Thunderbolt. I'm going to get the license. Sure. And he did. And then Hornby came along and tried to do it, but we had the license already, so they couldn't. And that was a huge success because Andy is as insane as I am. Actually, Andy reminds me a lot of me, and that's why we get along so well. And he went with he put in the inside of the car. He actually put the what do you call it? The hutch with the mugs, the teacups hanging from the hutch, and they're all decorated in the factory. It's crazy. And we're doing this thing called a B set now, this pair of coaches from Great Western. And he's got, not only does each compartment have luggage racks above the seats, but it's even got the little painted landscape painting that was above the seats, below the luggage rack.
Wow.
Insane. Okay. And to be honest, the fact that the malls are a little bit bigger because it's 176 instead of 187, it allows more freedom for that kind of interior detail.
Yeah.
But it is it's amazing. And he'll come to me and say, I have this idea, but it's crazy. I said, do it. In fact, when he was closing the order book on the B set and I was reviewing the newsletter, because I review the newsletters for the UK, and I said, you need a photo showing the landscape. Well, we haven't, it's just a 3D render. We haven't decorated yet. Decorate it. You need to show. I want to buy one because of the damn landscape. Put it in the picture. Okay. Because that's a selling point. No one will see it, but who cares? It's there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, it's your stewardship of some of these zany details that matter to regular modelers because it's exciting. It sets you guys apart. It's so much fun to be on this ride. It really is.
Oh, thank you.
It really, it's great. I mean, the thing, and I haven't said this on the air. I think I said it to you personally. Maybe I said it on the air, but having Rapido Trains sponsor the podcast makes the podcast that much more fun for me. It's just,
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit for me. And it's I'm, I love, I made this, I love doing all the making signs and doing whatever I can to, it's just a fun thing to do. It's a fun company to be part of and fun to have that association. It's like what Dave gets. It fits somehow.
I'm glad you guys think that.
It's a harmony, as Jason mentioned much earlier in the same show. There's a harmony. There's a harmony to it, and I think that matters a lot because you got a lot of voices. The internet and the hobby is growing. It's becoming more social. It's becoming more networked, and it's no longer anybody's one voice. We're going to have to come together, and we're going to have to do it with multiple voices. And as David Hyde would say, that's harmony.
Yeah, that's what we got to have. The next one we do with you guys is we got to talk about the harmony and the coming together of the hobby, because I think that's what I keep going on about, but I don't really realize what I'm saying, because I think never before have I felt such a kinship to the hobby and that it fits in my life. Because it used to be, I used to say to my wife 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you want to talk uncool? My name is Lionel, and I own a driving school, and I'm a model railroader. None of that says the word cool, and I'm overweight. I said, I said there is nothing in there that says the word cool. But the world has changed. The hobby has changed, and it's I'm proud to be a model railroader. I'm proud to tell people about the podcast and what it is we do. This hobby is going to grow. We are going to see a tsunami of interest and advancement in this hobby that we could never have imagined before. You guys can take that to the bank.
All right, so we'll continue in part 2 because I have to go to bed.
Yeah, we're going to go to bed now. And the one thing we're going to do, make sure of, is we got to get David Hyde his MKT poster. You guys had some sort of a poster. I
will get him his MKT poster.
Right. Oh, there we go.
All right, you heard it there, David. Okay, Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Yes, our email address. We've had a great time chatting with Jason. Let's hear what you think about it. Questions, comments, good, bad, whatever. We'd love to get them and read them on viewer mail. So send us an email at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers, the one L like llama, not two L's like llama.
And if you missed that, if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and click on the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, the email address comes up automatically, and all you got to do is fill in your text. Jason, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
All the time.
Yeah. Well, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and scroll across the navigation bar to Other, and in the drop-down menu, you'll see the AML shop, and in there, boom, you're in a wonderland of AML merchandise: hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, and in there you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Beauty.
Yeah, beauty. Beauty, eh? Kick, saving, and beauty.
Beauty. It's a beauty way to go.
Beauty way to go, yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you like this podcast, those of you who are listening, this is on the free channel, so that we can get our sponsor as much exposure as possible. If you like this podcast and you'd like twice as much podcasts a week, for just a few cents a day, you can join our Patreon channel. And every Tuesday, there will also be a podcast, which is a little bit more homey, down home, a little bit more less censored. We do our viewer mail. We have fireside chats with people like Chris Adams, and we try to some behind the scenes stuff. It's all good stuff. It's all just like we're here, but a little bit more relaxed. And if you go into the T-shirt level, Dave, I'm stealing that from you. If you go into the T-shirt level, then you can enter into a game that's sweeping the nation. Hey, dude, where's my shirt?
I like it.
Yeah, because
I like it too. That's a good one.
Yeah, because the guy that's in charge of sending out the T-shirts is basically useless. Yours truly, and everybody gets their T-shirt. The excitement of the game is, when do you get your T-shirt? That's really truly how you just never know when it's going to show up in your mailbox. So once a year you get a T-shirt, and you can the T-shirt you get is only available to the Patreon members. So that's very exciting. And that's
it's a beautiful way to go. Yes.
Yeah. And if you really like Patreon, if you go to Uncle Dave's channel, what's that one, Dave?
That's the Onondaga Cutoff Patreon channel. And in fact, if you click on a picture on the good old AML website of the evil overlord and Uncle Dave together, it'll take you right to the Onondaga Cutoff Patreon channel, where you get same sort of back scenes videos, and it's all video clips, which is nice. It's a video-based Patreon service where we show you how I do things on the OC, how we set things up for operating sessions, how we do scenery, how we do mechanical repairs, how I make sure the railroad is ready for the prime time when those times come. So your support is much appreciated, and you're immediately part of sort of the back scene story of the OC. It's been a lot of fun bringing it to you. And hey, I mean, it's all part of the greater AML community, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, Dave, I just had a great idea.
Uh-oh.
Why don't you and I go to like the West Coast, rent a van, and drive across country and make goofy videos?
I don't think they'd be as successful as certain other goofy videos from a certain other van trip. But we could try it. We would certainly have fun.
Yeah, we'd have fun. Absolutely. All right, Jason, I appreciate you'll be getting a call from me too. My yearly call, begging you for money. However,
sure. And we still have to do part 2 of this interview, but I have to.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to do part 2, but I think we'll do that after you come back from your extended vacation in Europe, or business trip in Europe.
Yeah, I would call it a trip.
Your trip, business trip.
Call it a vacation.
And you know what I really want to do? I was thinking about that the other day. Is I got to come back down to the Rapido Trains World Headquarters. Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
World Headquarters and interview some of the folks there. I got to interview Mohan after he comes back from 4 months in China.
Yes, you will interview him, but he'll only speak in Chinese to you. So good luck with that one.
And we got to get Schneider. We got to get Schneider on this show. So I'm going to send him a text that says, "Jason says you have to come on."
You could do that.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Now, Jason, are you ready for the end? You've had both versions. This is the one where you get to choose the ending.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So are you ready?
Yes.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
MS-10G MLW S13 locomotives.
A Modeler's Life is sponsored by Because I Love Sushi. You could love any old sushi, but would it love you back?
It's another Lincoln Homer.
See, Lionel, it's not just me.
No.
It's not just me. I know I peck you like a duck, but it's not just me.
Yeah. I said that to Dave once. We were having one of our discussions. And finally, I know a day later, I said, being your friend is like being pecked to death by a duck.
Hey, when you have goals in life, man, you got to do what you got to do.